movement that has taken over Wall Street and other areas of the country made its way to the Quad Cities. On Saturday, participants with Occupy Quad Cities group will march at 2 from the Rock Island County Courthouse over the Centennial Bridge to Davenport's LeClaire Park. The Occupy Quad Cities group will join Roger Farina's movement called New American Spring. His goal is to bring working people, musicians, and city officials together for healthy dialogue.
My event also different in that it's calling the community, Tea Partiers even, to come and mount the soapbox, share their ideas, and realize that we're not polarized and we're not each other's enemies. Come on and let's have a very wholesome community soapbox in the tradition of American democracy.
A different reason why.
But I do believe that it's a bit irrational right now to demonstrate when we're not sure what we're demonstrating for.
Roger Farina wants his Occupy Quad Cities event at LeClaire Park to have focus.
Ultimately, I'm organizing the event, but I'm organizing it specifically as a listening event.
He has been handing out flyers around the area for what he is calling a political soapbox, a chance for people to hear each other's views and find a common objective.
Individuals in raw democracy gather and express their opinions to one another and come up with clear, defined goals.
Farina sees these nationwide demonstrations as an inspiring and hopeful awakening of the American people.
My intention after this meeting is to gather a focus group to begin to hammer out specific goals and directions compatible with this American inspiration that's happening right now.
He would like to then address political officials with the ideas of the people. At the end of the day, Farina hopes these efforts can benefit all.
To create a new system where wealth can be equitably dispersed, not taken and given, but earned.
Farina says that he plans to attend the meeting here at Schrevert Park tomorrow and hopes that the two groups can work together to make the event successful. Live in Rock Island, Polly Mayfield, WQAD HD News 8.
Thank you, Polly. A Davenport man is organizing an Occupy Quad Cities event for October 22nd at LeClaire Park. Roger Farina says he is inspired by what he calls an awakening of the American people and hopes the event will provoke change. A separate group is holding a preliminary meeting tomorrow at Schrevert Park in Rock Island. Farina plans to attend and hopes the two groups will be able to work together.
We're trying to raise general consciousness among all people of the economic injustices that we're all facing. I just spoke to a class at St. Ambrose University, a business class, and I told them that, you know, in many respects they're brainwashed by the corporate culture. Of the inequality of wealth and the gargantuan effort that is required for even small business owners to rise in American society. The interests that continually squeeze the American people out of their financial resources, whether it be credit cards, whether it be business loans, we're constantly sending wealth into polarized directions. The more activity, the more the word gets out. My intention after this meeting is to gather a focus group to begin to hammer out specific goals and directions compatible with this American inspiration that's happening right now.
The Occupy movement that's taken over Wall Street and other areas of the country made its way to the Quad Cities, and tonight two groups have decided to combine forces to make Occupy Quad Cities as strong as possible. News 8's Polly Mayfield is here now with more. At the height of the Occupy Wall Street protests happening nationally, the Quad Cities movement has started to take shape. Another meeting was held today at Schrevert Park in Rock Island to finalize details for the local protests. The meeting started with around 20 and quickly grew to over 40 people, combining ideas and suggestions. 2 hours of discussion with a variety of opinions opened the organizers' eyes to the task ahead.
We started to hear, where we're kind of coming from, and I think that it's going to be a lot of work to sort out all of our different opinions, but I think we have a huge amount of common ground. Some of us are going to actually gather on the courthouse, the Rock Island Courthouse, next Saturday at 2 p.m., and then we're going to march across the bridge to LeClaire Park and join the event that's happening in LeClaire Park.
There has been two separate groups organizing Occupy protests
and now they have decided to support each other's efforts.
The Occupy Wall Street effort comes to our streets. A freedom rider relives 50 years of history and the wonder of the Wonderettes on the cities. We are on the road tonight. In a few minutes, we'll travel to the Martin Luther King Jr. Center to talk with a woman who helped change history. And we'll travel to the Circuit 21 Playhouse, where the women in the latest production are entertaining audiences and bringing attention to a very personal cause. But first, the Occupy campaign. It started last month in New York as an effort to protest corporate greed. It moved to larger cities across the U.S. and the world. And now smaller cities like Des Moines, Springfield, Peoria have all seen people taking to the streets. Now the same thing will happen in the Quad Cities. And let's talk to some of the organizers of Occupy Quad Cities and the rally that will be coming up this weekend. We have Angie Peterson. How are you, Angie?
Well, thank you.
And we have Roger Farina joining us as well. Roger, good to have you here as well. Roger, we're talking about this being an absolute grassroots idea. Roger, what made you think that this was something that you wanted to not only participate in, but actually help organize?
Well, this actually became a natural idea because the last 6 years I was on a book writing project where, as a big trucker, I traveled the U.S. and I interviewed ordinary people and had a conversation with them. And I come from the ideological side, so I wanted to paint an ideological portrait of the U.S. And so when I saw on CNN this Occupy event, Wednesday, it just clicked. Wednesday, October 5, it just clicked in my mind and said, this is all about dialoguing with Americans about their ideologies, their ideas, and trying to inspire a grassroots change that from the beginning I saw as what I call a new American spring.
Now, Roger, have you taken part in something like this before?
I've never organized an event before. It's just I just felt comfortable because of these years talking to my fellow Americans.
And Angie, the story is similar to you as well. I mean, this is something that, as far as organizing a rally of this sort, is relatively new for you as well.
Yes, it is.
What made you get involved?
Initially, seeing the coverage on television in New York was inspiring, and I've always had I felt close to situations like this. You know, it's something that's close to my heart, and I saw this as an opportunity to get involved in a grassroots movement to hopefully help the Quad Cities and the country as a whole.
Was it kind of a feeling of, and I hate to use the term helplessness, but you've seen what's gone on with America's banking system and the finances and then the economic conditions right now, the unemployment that isn't improving, the housing lending that doesn't seem to be improving, some of these underlying factors of what started the Occupy Wall Street campaign. Is that kind of what you were witnessing? Is that I'm watching this, there has to be something I should do?
That's correct, yes. We have to do something. You know, collectively, something has to be done because we are the 99%. And if we don't do it, it's, you know, nothing's going to change.
Well, let's start with that as well. We're talking about change. What would you like to see happen once this rally occurs? That's a huge step one for you guys. What's step two?
Ideally, you know, in a perfect world, Wall Street be held accountable for their actions. You know, as normal citizens, we're held accountable every day. And, you know, what Wall Street did was robbed people of their livelihoods, of their retirements, and now we're paying the cost, and they're buying a yacht. And there's something wrong there. That's an imbalance, and that needs to be fixed.
Roger, is that the way you see it as well? I mean, is this something that is going to be, obviously creating the rally is symptomatic of what happened earlier and what has been happening economically. I just wonder where you go from here.
Well, I believe that just a continual occupation, as long as unemployment remains so high, I feel that we can draw from the unemployed individuals and get them to keep the word going and keep this message continually fresh in the world until we can really mobilize our ideas, crystallize our ideas. And you know, I have an idea for nonprofit social economic justice advocacy organization that I think would be a great way to mobilize individuals and leverage power and influence politicians. I don't believe that there should be a traditional candidate, a traditional presidential candidate, a third party, or any such, because these parties, after a while, begin to be infiltrated by the moneyed interests. So we need to have a perpetual activation of the American citizen to keep fresh this appeal.
And I wonder also, because the short-term goal is that you're trying to get the attention of not only Wall Street, but of Washington as well, your local lawmakers, to show power. There's strength in power, strength in numbers, I should say.
Yes, definitely. As we see, it's global now, and I think it's a deep consciousness that's being risen by all of the world, a global spring. And I'm interested in the American spring because I am an American citizen, and I wish to lend my conceptual abilities to helping clarify these ideas in the American spring. And I believe it's a deep uprising where we're beginning to realize that just as the Arabs realized that they were ruled by dictators, we are realizing that we are abused by entrenched money interests, and we can begin to rise up and break those bonds.
Now, when you first started seeing this, Angie, on TV, as you said, you saw it kind of unfolding in New York City, as in Washington, D.C., in these places that you expect demonstrations to occur. Are you surprised it's taken kind of a foothold in other areas? We're talking about Peoria. If it plays in Peoria, it plays in America, they say. Now you're seeing it in the Quad Cities as well. Does that surprise you?
Not in the least bit. You know, this doesn't affect only one area of the country. I think people as a whole are frustrated, and it's not unique to one area. And we, you know, being in the Midwest, things usually move from east to west.
Usually over us as well.
Right. And this time we were fortunate enough to become a part of it, and if we're doing it, you know, that says something about the power of this movement.
And the depth of it perhaps as well?
Correct, yes.
Well, and let's talk about perhaps what the plan is for this event. My understanding is that you're planning on gathering at, the event's going to be at LeClaire Park. That we're absolutely sure about. But you also plan to start a little bit early. Roger, do you want to address that? You're going to start in Rock Island?
Yes, there has been two distinct organizing going on. By myself, just a spontaneous decision to do this event per se, and to paint this event in media and in the newspaper, the QC Times op-ed last Sunday, as a wholesome gathering of the community to try to break these separations that are currently plaguing American society in terms of partisan separation. So that was my call. Now, independently of my organizing, there has been this group that this lady is the spokesperson for, and they have been organizing on Facebook. Now, I'm pretty new to the Quad Cities, so I was out of the Facebook loop, but these individuals invited me to their events. I went in solidarity. They're coming to this event in solidarity in our symbolic march, and after this event, we're looking to come together in harmony to create a unified way to approach this Quad Cities occupation, and hopefully each of us find our rightful place and voice in this larger American spring that's going on.
Well, we're going to start at the Rock Island County Courthouse. And what particular time would people start gathering there?
1:30 is a good time to start, so, you know, we can all get on the same page, decide, you know, what time we actually want to leave, give people some time to, you know, get in place, and then we're going to probably start at the bridge, you know, 2-ish.
Centennial Bridge, okay, and then you're going to cross and go into LeClaire Park.
That's correct.
And what I think is interesting, Roger, is that you're calling it almost a community soapbox. What do you mean by that?
When I was at Fordham University studying liberal studies on the graduate level, I was introduced to the idea of the political soapbox in early American democracy, and you know, it inspired me as a way for the community on the really friendly level, on the really grassroots level, to come together, mount the symbolic soapbox, and share their ideas. And I'm hoping that this will go way beyond, you know, I'm hoping not to see the Tea Party individuals, for example, protest the event. I'd rather them come and mount the soapbox with us
In some ways, do you see, because there has been talk about, should Tea Partiers counter-protest? Should they take part? Should they ignore it? Some people have derisively called you the flea party. Is it somewhat that you guys have a shared interest in some ways? I'll ask you, Angie. I mean, is that a feeling that you have?
Absolutely. And actually I started an interview the other day with one of the original founders of the Tea Party, and his name is Carl Denninger, and he believes that a lot of what the Tea Party and Occupy have in common are, because Tea Party originally, when it began, they were fed up with the Wall Street bailouts. They were absolutely against that. And then, it morphed into something else. There's several opinions as to what happened. But so initially, they wanted the same things we did. So them coming with us, this is across, this is not about specific political ideologies. It's anybody that's a part of the 99%. There's 400 people that are 1% of this population. The rest of us, it doesn't matter how we identify politically. What matters is that, economic equality is the end goal here.
And you see it more as above politics. It's a pox upon both parties and Wall Street.
That's correct. I agree with that.
And Roger, is that the way, or do you think that there's going to be some influencing of elections coming up?
Well, right now, I believe that our ideas are not crystallized to the point where we can make a real predictable impact on politics. We do have some specific ideas that I like and this group likes. For example, a very concrete, specific idea would be to take City Hall's bank account and
Citibank?
Or the bank account at City Hall. For example, the City Hall of Davenport or local cities, take those bank accounts and put them in local community banks, take it out of the international corporate banks, which are only serving the moneyed interests, are only continuing to shift our people's resources to polarized interests, begin to shift wealth and resources back into the community, which will rise for the 99%, our citizens.
And Angie, obviously you must feel that this means that grassroots participation in your organization is still alive and well in America and the Quad Cities as well.
Absolutely. It's almost more important at the local level than it is the national level. If we don't work together as a community, whether that be for economic rights, social, injustices, it's not really going to move any further. So local communities are almost more important than the national scene right now.
Roger. Angie, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Good luck with your event. We hope to talk to you again soon in the coming months.
The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
This is part of Americans' First Amendment right to freedom of speech, press, and assembly. And these young people here today are hopefully going to make a change in the world for the better.
Welcome Quad Cities, not Davenport, not Rock Island, not Moline, not Bendor. Welcome Quad Cities.
I realize that this effort is not in today or 3 days from now or 30 or 90, but being involved in the fight for struggle for economic and social justice is a lifetime commitment. It's deeply rooted in the scriptures. Whatever you do to my least of my brethren, you do to me. And we need to get back to some of those fundamental principles. We start practicing.
We are the 99%. We are.
The struggle for economic and social justice should never end. Don't let it end here today or tomorrow or 30 or 90 days from now. Make it your lifetime commitment. And I ask you, never quit, never give up, keep hope alive. You are the true patriots. You are the real America. Thank you and God bless you all.